I'm always curious. Whenever I come across a friend or a colleague who's doing 7 or 8 figures every single year in their business or in their personal income, then I always wonder, like, how did they start off? But it's kind of awkward, just walking up and saying, hey, how did you start making money? That's why I started this podcast. So I get to ask people questions and they're sharing the story, not just with me, but also with you. And therefore, it's totally normal for me to interrogate them for an hour straight. So that's what I got to do here. He's in real estate and in coaching on real estate, but his backstory is really interesting. And, I don't know what you're going to learn about salesmanship here or about business or entrepreneurship, but I guarantee you will learn something and it's going to be interesting. Make sure you watch all the way to the end because this guy really knows what he's talking about.
The Content Capitalist Podcast.
Now, I want to take us back to before you got started, having had a lot of success in real estate. Could you take us back to, is this the first thing you did out of school, or was there something else in between?
Quite a bit of a journey. I sort of left school in year 12. I got a part-time job selling teddy bears, ended up while I was waiting to get into university, ended up getting a job.
Oh, wait, like teddy bears, like door to doors,
yeah,
knocking on doors, or is this like
door to door teddy bear? And I sold a teddy bear to this art dealer, and he chased me down the road, and I thought he wanted his money back. So I was like, "Sorry, mate, you've paid me the money." He goes, "No, I want to hire you." And I said, "I'm waiting to go to uni. I'm not really interested." And then he's like, "Imagine earning $1,000 to $2,000 a week." And I said, "Okay, I'm listening." So I ended up becoming an art dealer. He could see that my sales skills were good. And, at the ripe old age of 18, I ended up moving to Sydney, selling artwork, which was so much fun.
And how much were these teddy bears going for? Like, what does it have to be? Like, I'm imagining like a huge amount of work to sell a lot. So what were you making?
It was like $25 and I was getting paid like $5 to sell a teddy bear.
Wow, that's called grunt work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But you know what? The fact of it is, though, it is grunt work, but when you first start out, that's what you have to do. You have to do the grunt work to get good. You know what I mean? And with teddy bears, I saw a lot of people and honed my skills because I was talking to 120 people a day.
Do you remember what your sales ratio was like for doors knocked to sales?
Yeah, it was about 10%.
Oh, okay. So, that sounds like you're counting down like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. You'll get a sale, like statistically 1 out of 10.
Exactly. I'd actually walk in with the little teddy bear and I'd say catch and throw it to them. They'd be holding it and I'd go, "This is poor Boris and he hasn't got a home." And they'd go, "Oh." So my clientele was, female mainly because they loved little teddy bears, especially once they hold them, they don't want to give it back to you. So great.
Okay, got it. And if it's like a big burly man with a beard and a beer in a hand, and then would you like what kind of tack would you take there?
All right. Well, funny enough, I just used the same tack over and over, and some people went for it, other people didn't, and it worked. So, really, I didn't know what I was doing. It was a numbers game. But once I got involved in artwork, then I realized that it's actually a skill where you get to know someone and you build that deep connection, and that's where the power is.
Some people tell me I can't do video marketing, I can't create enough content because I don't have the right gear. That is a stupid excuse. If you have a phone, you have everything you need. He's going to tell you about what he started with. It's not what you start with, it's what you sell and what you accomplish with it that matters. Let's hear his story. One of the reasons I reached out to you in the first place and invited you to the podcast is because you are a prolific producer of content. And I'm going to guess it wasn't always the case. Do you remember when you first started like shooting videos of yourself and putting it out on social media? How long ago was that?
Yeah. So look, I started shooting videos probably about 8 or 9 years ago when I started the business. And I remember my wife, we set up a little studio upstairs. I got my wife to record me. And I was trying to, do the camera, and she's like, "Don't do this and don't do that, and your hands." And it was like frustrating. And I was getting upset with her, but it wasn't her fault. It was just because I wasn't comfortable. You know what I mean? And then we saw the final thing. We had to edit it, and my poor wife spent like 4 hours editing it because I'd made so many mistakes. We put it together. We looked at it and thought, it's all right. It's all right, but it's not fantastic. And then we just kept doing it. So what happened was, I kept doing it. We just week in, week out, kept recording videos and just started becoming super comfortable. Because I think, there's not enough authenticity these days. And I think being authentic is so important. And the only way to become authentic is by being really comfortable being yourself. Because if you're not yourself, if you go on camera and pretend to be someone else, and that's an unconscious thing that happens to people, then people don't get that connection. So I find now I can be myself completely and utterly, and that makes it so easy.
We're talking about imposter syndrome, and you're talking about your experience as a door-to-door salesman, and you built up a lot of confidence in you, right? And when you first started making that content, was where was it going to? Were you posting it to YouTube, or was there something else?
Okay, so when I first started posting content, what happened was Facebook Live videos were taking off. So I actually was doing Facebook Live videos because I first started doing YouTube, but as soon as Facebook Live, the algorithm was rewarding me for that, I started doing Facebook Lives. And doing it live, is scary, but what happens is it helps you be more authentic and does build your skills quicker.
It does, like 100%.
And so I just kept doing it because Facebook was rewarding it. Well, just like now, the algorithm rewards short form video and TikTok. So whatever the algorithm's rewarding, I'm jumping on that bandwagon because that's important, because you don't want to work against the grain, you want to work with it.
Got it. So like, as far as this coming into creating new customers for you, what did that like in the very beginning? You're going live on Facebook. Were you following up on all the comments, or were people already like directly, sending you messages saying, how can I work with you? What was that connection between actually making content and more money coming into your business for you?
Yeah. So look, at first I didn't know what I was doing. So, we're having comments, but I didn't know how to convert the comments or the messages. So unless people directly reached out and said, hey, I want to use you, I was like, went over my head and I didn't do anything, right? So, but what I found was by producing more content and showing people what we do and how we do it, then it gave people a comfort level. And I found an interesting correlation. The more content someone watched, the bigger the percentage of them joining our program. So that was a very interesting thing.
As you probably know, I have an agency. We produce anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 videos every single month for our clients to help them get their clients to know, like, and trust them, and eventually open their wallets and buy from our clients. Now, here's the thing. This level of service is not for everybody. Honestly, if you don't have a converting product and you don't know how to sell, you shouldn't hire us. So I asked him, what's your opinion on when he started hiring teams like us and actually outsourcing the video content creation and the distribution and the social media to another team? If you have that question on your mind, then this part is for you. And if you come to the conclusion that you should be hiring a team like mine, then you should probably talk to me before talking to any of the competition, just FYI. All right, I'll see you right after this break. You hired a professional videographer to help you with your videos. At what point do you think a business should, instead of, shooting and editing all their own stuff, actually hire a professional? And whether it's somebody who comes in person like you do or hiring an agency, when does it make sense to do that?
Yeah, I guess when it makes sense is, one, it's about the ROI. And you got to, what I like to do is, I think what's the most important thing as a business owner, more important than anything in the world, or even anyone, not even just a business owner, is you got to find out what are you worth per hour. Number one. And, you got to work out what you're worth per hour. And then video editing and video shooting, you work out how much you have to pay for that and your hour and time, and how much does it make sense to pay someone else? And so for me, it makes a lot more sense for me to pay an outside team and other people to do it for me than me do it myself. But when I first started, as you heard, me and my wife were doing the editing, and it took forever. And now I've got a professional, and I just record it. It's nice and easy. I spend an hour, a couple of hours a week, and that's it. But before that, it took us literally hours and hours and hours, and the quality was not nearly as good.
Got it. And as soon as what your time is worth, if somebody is to do it lower than your hourly rate, then that would be like when you should shift and offload those duties. It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. But also, so then you can shift on to other things in your business, because, producing stuff as a business owner, as a visionary, that shouldn't be your main focus.
Okay, I love it. Thanks so much for that. George, I'm going to end this by asking you to just let us know if there's somebody who listened to this and they want to find out more about your property coaching services and your business. Where's the best place to find that information?
Yep. Go to georgemarkoski.com and you can find out more about it there.
Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, go check down in the description, find the links. And if you're listening to the podcast, check out the show notes. Make sure you go and check out George. And I do recommend, on a personal level, I've been in touch with George for some time, had a few conversations where we're in some of the same masterminds where there's some really only high integrity people allowed. So that's why I have so much trust in someone like him. So check out the links, get in touch with him, find out more. Look him up on TikTok because that's where he's growing really well. George, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Is there any last words of advice you'd like to give somebody who's trying to, at all about your business, about life, about creation?
No, that's about it. The one thing, I suppose, content creation, life, be the best version of yourself when you're creating content, when you're in your life or anywhere, because you don't want to be a second-rate version of someone else.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, George. I appreciate it.
Ken, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, thanks for watching all the way to the end. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation, especially the fact that he brought on that awesome Australian accent to make this all the more international. Right here is the full 1 hour version. I don't know why you'd want to watch that, because there's a podcast version down below. Click the link, Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever your favorite one is. Load that up so that while you are clipping your toenails, you could be listening to the podcast. Because when you clip your toenails, right, you want to look at your toenails and not at the video. Otherwise, you might, cut something off that you're not supposed to cut off. Clipping toenails equals listening to podcasts, eyes on your toenails in the clipper, okay? So click that down below and don't cut your toes. That's it. I'll see you next time.